you. Okay. Welcome in, everybody. We're really excited that there's such great interest in the team building voucher, or the TBV. And this is our information session. In general, I'm really excited that all of you are excited about team science because it's really important to get the right people in the room to figure out the right question that you want to ask to then continue down pathways from there. Ideally to get bigger funding mechanisms and other things like that to really have an impact in the world about our science. And so we're really excited that everyone is here. I'm Mayla Bougaslav. I'm the Director of Team Science and a researcher at the Southern California Clinical and Translational Science Institute, or SCCTSI. SCCTSI is an infrastructure institute that supports researchers to do their research, such as the team building voucher funding mechanisms, there's pilot funding mechanisms, and then many other benefits of the SCCTSI that we'll share a little bit at the end. And then my co-presenter here, I'm going to pass it to, is Allison Orqua to introduce herself.
Hi, Allison Oraqua. I am the administrative lead for the SCCTSI and happy to be here to talk about this mechanism. Welcome.
Awesome. Okay. Awesome. So to give you a little bit of background on the voucher, the Southern California Clinical and Translational Science Institute, or this SCCTSI, is seeking applications for team building activities. And the focus is on launching a new team through activities that will help generate ideas, plans, and new projects and enhance research activities through enhancing team cohesion. So the focus is really on the team building activities, not necessarily the exact science that you're going to do with that, but you do need to motivate that for us. We fund 2 to 3 vouchers for up to $10,000 each. So it's not a large amount of money, but it's really a bit of money to help you build the team to then get to those bigger impacts down the line. The most common question we get is, what are eligible team building activities? The goal of a team building activity is to support the formation of new research teams and the development of new research ideas and projects by developing the team and leveraging everyone's expertise. We are not funding pilot research, so it's not to conduct a study or develop education materials. We are funding team building activities such as developing collaboration plans with community groups, hosting a conference, workshop, seminar to bring together researchers and other partners interested in a new multidisciplinary, multi-sector, and or community engaged research project or program. Engagement of a consultant to help brainstorm and formalize these directions, landscape analysis, conducting focus groups and or listening tours, and many more different things, really with this focus on the team, not just the science. I'll pass it to Allison to talk about our special topic for July 2026.
Thank you. This is not a required area that you would have to submit under. It is an optional area that is our special topic. And so we plan on funding at least one voucher that's focused on this. So translational science, if you're not familiar with it, is sort of like the meta science. It's science on the scientific process that we define as a field of investigation which seeks to understand the fundamental scientific principles underlying the steps of the process in order to make it more predictable and efficient. So the goal is to develop some generalizable knowledge and or product that will help multiple research studies go faster and more efficiently and have a better impact. So like I said at the beginning, the special topic, if you're outside of that special topic, you're still welcome to apply. If you think that there's a way to incorporate like one aspect of translational science into your topic, that would also be great too. We're really interested in fostering interest in translational science. All right, next slide. So what I just read was the kind of larger NIH definition of this field, but to go a little bit deeper and give you some more concrete information about how we see translational science, here's our working definition. So it involves identifying a general challenge in the research process and one or more of these things: understanding that challenge, testing new strategies that will address that challenge, and or implementing that strategy and or disseminating it to other researchers. So what is a strategy that addresses challenges? It's anything that you think of that could improve the speed, efficiency, quality, and or impact of the research process. All right, I'm happy to take questions on that at the end. But just to give some more concrete examples, things that we have funded in this area in the past, this one regarded a wearables for health toolkit. Research teams, when they incorporate Fitbits and other wearable devices and want to integrate the data from those devices with other things like EHR data, they, instead of having to learn how to do that anew, every single team learning that, this wearable for health toolkit project will develop a platform that gives everybody a leg up, that will easily ingest and align and help analyze the data from these wearables. So hopefully that gives you an example from our USC computer science teams of a translational science product. Another one using T-cell therapies or benefiting T-cell therapy type research is building a base editing platform so that we increase the speed of starting up these new studies in T-cell therapies. All right.
Yeah.
Mayla, go back.
Yeah, and just to state that these two examples are pilot projects, and so that's more focused on the science, but the idea is you can think about how would you build a team that would create these types of projects in the translational science space. Thanks, Allison.
Thank you.
Okay, a little bit more details into the applications and project timeline. We're accepting applications due July 17th, 2026. So you have over a month from now. And the funding will be made available within 4 to 6 weeks of submitting the applications. This is the idea. The idea of this is meant to be rapid funding to start building your team. And the project is expected to be completed within 6 months. Here is eligibility. PIs must be a full-time faculty member at USC or CHLA as of the date of the award. Postdocs, residents, fellows, students, and community members can serve as co-investigators. So your team can be many different types of people, but the PI does need to be USC or CHLA full-time faculty affiliated. PIs may have only one active team building voucher proposal or funded award at any one time. I do recognize a few people from the past. And a PI on any current active proposal or funded award can serve as a co-investigator on other proposals. So it's totally okay if you want to help with other ones, but you're not allowed to be the PI on more than one. And also, in general, if you have a voucher already, you're eligible for one additional award to reach a new goal going forward. Okay. To help with thinking through the team building activities, we highly recommend that PIs participate in pre-submission consultation hours with me prior to the proposal submission. And we also highly encourage key personnel to attend or anyone else you think would be relevant. These can provide some tailored guidance, including assistance in meeting the mission of the mechanism, support to develop an activity plan to achieve your goals, connection to some team science resources. And just to be like very, very clear, I will not look at any materials for fairness to everyone for this funding mechanism. And to set up a consultation, you'll just email me. I can put my email in the chat. And I will send out all the slides to everyone who's attended in general. Okay, there's my email. Okay. Come on. When a team receives a team building voucher, they are required to meet with research development, myself, to tailor team science support and do a kickoff meeting, participate in a 2-hour online SECTSI team science training that covers team science principles and practical tools. We do workshops throughout the year around team science, and we highly encourage everyone to attend them. But if you get this award, you are required to at least attend one. And you also have to complete a final report about the project outcomes. That's a 1-page document. And in general, I'm also a researcher. And so please note that we may request to be present as observers in your team building activities to better understand their effectiveness and how they can best meet research team needs so we can continue doing research on these efforts and improving them. And I recently updated some team science resources on our website. And so there's some links throughout here that you can look at to see more stuff around team science too. Okay, if all of this sounds great to you and your team, let's talk a little bit more in depth about the proposal guidelines. In the online portal, you will be required to submit the general applicant PI information, the team building proposal. It's 3 pages, including references. So it's not very long, recognizing that it's not a large amount of money. So you should have plenty of time within the next month or so to write this up. This 3-page proposal needs to include the objectives, including a rationale for how the project will enhance the development and cohesion of the new multidisciplinary team. You need to describe the team, including all the different roles and how they contribute to the multidisciplinarity and diversity of the team. We need details of the team building activities and ideally be as specific as possible. And then some future directions of the proposed work, plans and timelines for external grant submission, with the assumption that building this team will lead you to greater projects and bigger funding and all of those things. To be really, really clear, this is not a pilot project. So notice that each specific section is the proposal is about the team. So please summarize the science and the objective, but focus who is on the team and the team building activities. So please don't send us 2 pages of objective and half a page about your team. Do the reverse, right? Half a page about the science and then the rest about the team. And take this as an opportunity to really build or foster a team of people that can help further a research idea. So really think deeply about who you need in the room to move your project forward or to think about what are the right questions to even be asking. The budget, as I was saying, is a max of $10,000. There's a budget form and budget justification. And then we do require NIH bio sketches for key personnel. Recognize that there's a new form, the Sci and CV, so pay attention to that too, and all the links are correct in the website. And then we also need letters of support, if applicable. And then just please note any formatting guidelines that we say on the website in general. I think here's the website if you would like it to in the chat. Okay. All of this is on the website, and then this recording will also be uploaded there, so you can look at it again if you'd like to. Okay. In terms of our evaluation, we evaluate on 4 main criteria. The first 2 criteria focus on the team for both the attributes and the activities. A large emphasis is put on a new team. This does not mean that the whole team is new, but that there are parts that are new. Many of our teams currently funded are not completely new, but have added new partners from different disciplines or sectors. For the activities, we want to see that they will generate ideas, plans, and new objectives and enhance research activity, and also enhance your team cohesion so that you can continue moving forward with your project seamlessly, recognizing that whenever we get a group of people together, there's always things that can go wrong. And so the more we are able to work together better and more efficiently, the more we can move down the line quicker. The last 2 criteria focus more on the research and future directions. The SECTSI focuses on clinical and or community engaged translational research. So it does have to fit that category for research. Otherwise, it is not eligible for this funding mechanism. The other 3 criteria under research domain attributes is from the NIH scoring criteria, impact, innovation, and approach. And finally, we want to see that you have plans for future research after the award. Okay. Your team is also eligible to apply for up to 1 renewal for up to $10,000 for teams that have demonstrated a multidisciplinary composition and commitment to work together towards a specific research goal. If this is your case, please contact us, myself, to learn about how to go about doing that if it's the same exact voucher specifically that you want to continue moving forward. Okay, some examples of successful applications. The first one is titled Establishing a Scientific Team to Address the Service Needs of Older Puerto Ricans Living with Chronic Health Conditions and or Memory Loss. Their goals were to develop a new team of scientists from Puerto Rico and the mainland, so really this nice collaboration between the two, to conduct a narrative literature review together, a product that came out of it, identify a new working group or team of collaborators, including academic services and lay communities. They went to the communities and talked to them. And this really gets at the third one of conducting at least 3 separate listening sessions in Puerto Rico of team members, agency staff, older Puerto Ricans, and family members to really understand what are the directions in future collaborations and questions that they should be asking for this work. So in doing this, they're able to really dive deeply into what directions they wanted to go for the research and be able to really be clear on what those next funding mechanisms will be to continue these projects. The second one is exploring neurodiverse individuals' lived experiences with online games and virtual worlds as novel platforms and tools for telehealth. So here the goals were to investigate the lived experiences of how neurodiverse individuals communicate, play, and socialize in virtual worlds, specifically thinking about those benefits and challenges that they face in online gaming. And they wanted to develop a new team to co-create best practices and clinical implications for implementing these in telehealth. So those are some two examples where they're really focused on building the team and understanding the communities involved in general before they really went for more funding and research projects. Thinking a little bit more future, if you get this team building voucher, there are really amazing things that you can leverage it for in terms of future funding. So one of our successful post-voucher outcomes was the creation of the Southern California Center for Young Adult Cancer Survivorship Research. This started by a bunch of researchers and clinicians coming together to recognize that there was a problem that needed to be thought about around young adult cancer survivorship, and there wasn't a lot of research that went into it. And so they aimed to raise awareness of opportunities, highlight the availability of clinical and scientific resources, help connect investigators, and they host an expert speaker series. And in general, they've maintained a really strong commitment to pre and postdoctoral PhD trainees, as well as medical fellows, residents, and students. And they established this as part of the Norris Comprehensive Cancer Center with support from 2 different team building vouchers that they got to put the right people in the room. So really cool things that you can do with these vouchers. Oh, come on. Okay. I also just want to be really clear that you can really leverage these in future applications. These funding mechanisms can help you document the team's collaboration, output, and success, and team science capabilities, established practices in your research strategy for your grants, your multi-PI plans, the structure of your study team, and bio sketches. And so these can really be leveraged in really nice ways to demonstrate that you know how to work together as a team and that you've created something out of doing that, and that you've really thought deeply about who needs to be in the room and what questions you're asking to go for those bigger things. And so one such example is ARPA-H, where ARPA-H is really the goal to advance research projects. It's the Advanced Research Projects Agency for Health. They provide research funding to build high payoff capabilities or platforms to drive biomedical breakthroughs, ranging from the molecular to societal, that will provide transformative solutions for all individuals. And they have specific focus areas in general. But what I really want to showcase is their program lifecycle. That goes from design programs, build a performer team, execute and measure, learn and grow, to commercialize and transition. And I just want to highlight that they really call out this idea of building a performer team. That's important to really get the right people in the right room for the right questions to understand how to move forward in general. And so they call out communities, finding the right people, and then building new coalitions and relationships with people. And so really to wrap up here, there are lots of benefits of being a part of the SEC TSI, whether or not you get this team building voucher. You can still use some of our services. And so if you do get this team building voucher, we'll give you tailored team science support from research development. And then in general, there's also lots of other cores within the SEC TSI, including biostatistics, epidemiology, and research design. There's regulatory knowledge and support, community engagement, and many, many more things. And so with that, I want to say thank you. This is not the correct email. I apologize. Please use the email I put in the chat earlier, Mayla.Bougaslav. This will still go somewhere and get to me. But yeah, with that, I'm happy to answer any questions from any of the different slides. Feel free to raise your hand or unmute. Okay, yeah, Alicia.
Hi. So I had a quick question really quickly about the one that was funded about the GMP ready base editing CAR T cell. So you mentioned that it's not for a pilot research, but it's for team building for the purpose potentially of a pilot research. So what's an example of that? Because when I read that, I guess I wanted to know more of like what would be an example of team building, like with I guess 2 different teams for the eventual purpose of conducting research together. That's maybe not like directly patient facing in the sense that you're listening to a patient's experiences and then, notating them down.
Yeah, Allison, do you want to take that one or do you want me to talk?
You can go ahead, please, since you're familiar mostly with the team building activities.
Yeah. So on some level, as Allison was saying about translational science, the idea is really thinking about it kind of the science of science or meta science. And so you still need a team to think across different projects. So this last round previously was the first round we did with translational science. And, a lot of people kind of wrote about the specific populations they're thinking about, but then also said why this is useful to other things. So, for example, we funded a project that was thinking about indigenous populations in a specific way. But they were saying that this could be a roadmap to how you think about in generally thinking or incorporating minority populations, right? So how do we go about that? So that would be the translational science aspect of that, where it's a broader roadmap or framework, other things like that, that get at a topic that you're then studying in a specific way. So if you notice in our translational science definition that we use, I'm going to reshare my screen. It can be demonstrated within a single study or stage. So we recognize that you have to start somewhere. And so it's okay to kind of start with a specific population or a specific type of thing, but please also indicate why that's useful to other things and how it can be generalized outside of just the specific stage that you're in. Allison, do you want to add anything?
I was just trying to look back at the previously funded team building vouchers that had a translational science aim to give a more concrete example, but I didn't have time to pull it up. I would say one way is one type of team building activity that is eligible that might be in this translational science area is, like Mayla said, figuring out how to incorporate the right groups of patients and deciding as a team the different strategies that you might test or discuss or build during those team building activities that might resolve or address a common research barrier.
Yeah, so to go further on that example that I was giving, their team building activities involved really bringing in the communities and bringing in experts from the community and community member representatives to be able to understand how to go about bringing in those communities and including them in the work that they're doing in general. So that's like the translational science aspect too.
Is that for the CAR T cell research?
No, so the CAR T cell one was not a team building voucher first. We kind of piloted this first with the pilot program, and then we did it with the team building vouchers, and we're still figuring this out with translational science because it's a bit of a newer field. And so, yeah, like the CAR T cell one, I'm trying to think of what they could do if I looked at it. I guess to me, it's this question of like, why are they doing this? And so you'd want to bring together a lot of the people who want to use T cells and understand what's the motivation for it from this generalizable perspective. So that could be an example of a team building activity they could do is getting the right people in the room for this problem to be able to ensure they're actually meeting the needs of everybody.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Hi. Oh, go ahead, Kevin, please. I think you beat me to it.
Oh, I didn't raise my hand, but sure. For the budget justification report, what kind of expenses are we looking at here that are typical for these kind of team building activities?
Yeah, so the budget form is the classic NIH form, so it's nothing different than that. In general, what a lot of people use the funding for is potentially hiring like a program specialist to help with an activity, renting a space, right? If they're doing a conference, money for participants, if they're doing listening sessions. It kind of ranges to many different things depending on what your activities are that you're doing. Yeah, so it can kind of be anything and anything. Like we've also had some people do like data storage, so some computing software in general. So it kind of has to fit the NIH normal guidelines, but then that tends to be what they fund at large.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I see the questions in the chat. We'll keep going, and we have plenty of time. This goes till 1, so plenty of time for questions. Seth, I think you were next, unmuted. Yeah.
Oh yeah, hey, thanks. Yeah, great to see you and see everyone. Just really curious if I'm barking up the right tree here. So the short version of the idea is, um, around issues of housing and homelessness. There are so many facets of USC working on this, from social work, there's research, there's geospatial stuff, there's clinical stuff, there's street medicine, there's the School of Architecture, but it's fragmented. And so looking at bringing these kind of interdisciplinary groups together, social work, public health, gerontology, engineering, like et cetera, identifying some shared research questions around housing stability and health outcomes, service delivery, AI, I mean, and just have that conversation that no one has had yet. Come up with a few multidisciplinary research concepts, maybe create working groups, and maybe there's a roadmap for external funding, and maybe this is even something that other universities can look at. Is that kind of it's maybe a little outside of the box of some of the stuff that's going on, but just wanted to bounce that off of you both.
Yeah. So, right, you're checking the boxes of interdisciplinarity, right? I think the question I would have for you, you're definitely barking up the right tree. I think the question I would have for you are, what are the team building activities that you're going to do? Like, why do I need to bring these people together? And why will bringing these people together in some specific way that you'll tell me in the application, will that move something forward, right? Why will that be good for the world in some way, moving a research program forward in a specific way, and then lead you to greater funding and greater projects because you were in the room together. So on some level, the idea is, because of this funding, because of the activities you did, what is going to be better in terms of research, in terms of impact, in terms of all these different things that will lead you down that line. So that's really the question. And it's really kind of focusing on, like, what are those activities? What do you really need to do? Why do you need these people? And that's what you're motivating in the application of about 3 pages. So you need to motivate your science, as you kind of did, but also really be specific on what are those activities that you're doing to get to the point of where you want to go.
Okay.
I'm happy to talk more about specific
I
projects.
was gonna say, I feel like
consultations.
nerding out totally. I feel like nerding out with you now about it, but okay.
Yeah, so I asked that you email me. Like, first of all, like, think about what I just said. Maybe rewatch this video one more time, and then if you still have questions, like, please feel free to email, and I'm happy to jump on a 30-minute consultation call and talk about more specifics of a project. But I want to save this for like more general questions instead of specific project questions, if that makes sense. Cool. Okay, maybe I'll do the chat ones, and happy to keep going. So Jane Lee, if community partners are not in academia/research, example CBOs, but are the co-Is for the proposal, do they need bio sketches? In general, we definitely need it for the PIs. In terms of the bio sketches for the co-Is, that is up to you. It's always nice to see information for people. So it's kind of your decision if you think that's useful to us to be able to assess the team and why they're necessary in the room for that. And then the follow-up is, can researchers outside of USC be listed as co-Is or team members? Yes, they can. We have a lot of teams that include outside of USC or CHLA. The only requirement is that the main PI who's applying for the funding has to be a full-time faculty at USC or CHLA. But we have people across different institutions, across different community organizations across the country. So that's not an issue at all. Kevin.
Yeah, just following up on that too. If there's a member of the team who, for example, has helped with building a technology, but they're from outside of the US, can we include them as well?
I guess, Allison, do you have thoughts
I
here?
would just direct you to the new NIH guidelines about, restricting funds to foreign partners. So there are ways to compensate folks outside of the US, but maybe keep it off of the grant request, since this is indirectly NIH funding.
Well, I guess what I mean is, if we need just somebody to be on the team to provide like free just guidance.
Yes, I think.
But they know in depth, like if we want to introduce technology into like a help group of kids, and they own the patent, and they also kind of have the in-depth information about how it works, just to have them as part of the discussion without them being part of the budget or anything.
Yeah, that's allowable for sure. And just make sure you
It's allowable.
provide the justification like you started to.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, this is based on the changes to NIH guidelines. So this funding is coming from the SEC-TSI, but it's funneled through NIH. We get funded through NIH and
Okay.
NCATS, and so we still have to follow all those guidelines. So all of that still is the base level of what we need to think about either way.
Okay. Well, I'll evaluate if it's strictly necessary or not. Thank
you. Yeah. Other questions? Butu Chen, if I'm saying that correctly. You're muted.
I have to lower my hand first and then. Okay. Thank you so much. I have another follow-up question is that on the budget, say we are consulting external people who are experts in this and that field, can we budget like consultation fee? Can we budget like gift cards in terms of appreciation for these people? Is a justifiable budget?
Yes, you're allowed to like people do this for community members all the time. While they'll say like we need to give money for community members, you can't really call them gifts in the same way. That's not allowable. So you have to be careful of the language. But yes, in terms of consultation fees, if somebody's coming into a project to consult on something and you're giving them a certain amount of money, that is okay to be a line item on the budget. That has happened in previous team building vouchers.
Okay.
Just make sure to justify why you need that consultation and the money and all of those different things. So really a lot of this comes down to the justification, and then our financial manager is really good at knowing all these different things. So any like really technical specific things, I would probably default to asking my financial manager. So if you have more of those questions, feel free to also email me more specifically those specifics. But yeah, in general, people have done consultation fees or money for participants of community members, other things like that for sure have been an line item on the budget.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I have a different question, but if anyone has another question, please. Okay, can I keep asking?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. And I also saw that on the proposal is supposed to put in the team members' names, and I was wondering, can we use this opportunity to identify team member instead of like we have a base team member, but we want to like say we want to host a workshop and see or I don't know, a seminar, present idea to see if anyone are willing to team up. Could that be concept of the team activity, or we need to have a team first and then build team through the voucher?
Yeah, really good question. We get a range of both in our applications and what we've funded. So some people have the full team basically identified. A lot of times they still shift once they're funded. So to recognize that, teams change once we're funded either way. But yes, we've also had people who have said, I need somebody in this specific role and I'm going to find them in certain ways. I think my one caveat is that it's only 6 months. And one of the biggest, hurdles for everything is time. And our biggest constraint is time. And so just give us a pathway of how you're going to identify them and really show us that they're necessary, and why you haven't identified them yet. So really just making sure you're justifying the need for it, justifying, all the different pieces. But yes, it is totally okay to have a role that you need to fill. Just be careful with the timing aspect of it.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I guess I have one more question about like equipment. So if we're building a team to put together translational science in a community environment and to test if a certain technology will be is feasible within like neurodiverse children. But we also need some of the equipment, like the tablets that we want to use for the workshops, at least an initial batch of tablets so that we can meet with everybody and test the feasibility of implementing this technology. Would the tablets in this context be part of the budget, or is that more of a pilot study budget?
Yeah, so technology is allowed. There's like very specific guidelines, and I just don't know them off the top of my head. I'd have to look them up. But Technology is allowed. I think what you have to be careful about is really motivating why that's necessary to build the team that will get
Yeah.
you to think about the right question. So, a lot of this is how you explain it. Whereas the pilot would be, I need all these tablets so that way I can test this thing, right? That's more the pilot language. This is really about, and the feasibility piece, what you said about feasibility is a little bit also more piloty. And so you just have to kind of be careful to walk that line of, here's the science we're trying to do. Here are the people we need to bring in the room to really get to that science. And these are the activities we need to do, which could include some technology, to be clear. So does that help?
Yeah. I think it helps. I see. Yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
I know it's like a shift of how we're kind of used to thinking. We're used to really thinking in the science focus, whereas this is really about who are the right people that you need in the room and doing what to really get at those right research questions, right funding mechanisms, right population, whatever it may be. So that's really the shift in thinking there.
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
Sorry, one more question, just to piggyback off of what Kevin was saying. So what if the budget justification was to be trained on that device? Like one team has maybe expertise on this and then the other team doesn't, and the other team would like to get trained on that. Could that be a part of the budget justification?
Yeah, like I think again, it's the same question, right? Why? Why do
Okay.
they need to be trained on this to be a part of the team? Allison, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I was just going to say something similar. As long as the training is part of like a broader strategy to develop a team and make a team more cohesive for a future, research development project, then yes, I think that would go nicely.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess so. My mind was thinking, I was trying to make a distinction of actually collecting the data versus like the team building would be to like get the knowledge from the other group, basically, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, getting the knowledge from the other group, but also kind of entering into collaboration with them, I think would be
Right.
an important part to strengthen the proposal. And then gathering some data is certainly possible, an eligible type of activity as part of this grant mechanism, but it's not the focus. But it would certainly help with getting future funding.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think the idea of this a little bit is it's kind of pre to a pilot, you could think, or pre to a bigger grant. So, really focusing on that team, but recognizing that, if you're bringing the team together, it's a great opportunity to also collect some data. So it's okay to kind of do both pieces, but you need to motivate why collecting that data is going to help the team also work together better, right? So it's really that question of how is this really affecting the team cohesion that will allow us to work together better in the future too, and go for the right, funding mechanisms or questions or other things like that. Just, I know I like keep beating a dead horse, but that's really the question we're thinking about versus, what's the preliminary data I need for the next step? Like those are kind of the different types of questions you're asking.
And if you throw a certain type of tool or strategy into the activity, say asking if role playing during training really leads to better comprehension and faster acquisition, and you measure that and show that yes, it did, and it might be generalizable to other researchers, that would be a nice translational science angle.
Nice. Yeah, other questions? I thought I saw somebody else on mute, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, sorry. I was and I apologize if I missed this, if you already answered it. So I was hearing you mentioning this is just for 6 months. What did you mean by that? Like, do we have to complete this project within 6 months, or the funding, does it last for 6 months? I think that's my number one question. My second question is that, so what are kind of like the expectation at the end of the funding period? So do you expect that we will have like, like a report of like a completed project, or is it okay if it's like, okay, we built this team, we're still working towards this, we're working on this study or building this stuff, but this is kind of like where we are at, even though it's not yet completed. Is that okay to also have that?
Yeah, good question. So the funding mechanism itself is for 6 months, and that's when the $10,000, up to $10,000 can be used. So it is only 6 months for $10,000. So hopefully that answers your first question in general. The second piece about where, like, what are the expected outcomes? We ask in the application, you tell us some of your future directions, right? And so that could be, applying for external funding. That could be, other things like writing publications, whatever it may be. And so we expect by the end of this that you're getting to a newer place that's, generating new research ideas, generating new research plans that can lead you to the next steps. But recognizing that, it's only 6 months, it's not a long time, you may not necessarily have submitted the grant yet, right? But ideally, at least you've identified the right exact funding mechanism that you're going to go for. Or, ideally, the exact team that you need, or maybe the exact people that you're still missing from that team, right? That you moved forward both in the team piece and also in the science, right? Getting to that right question, getting to that right funding mechanism, publication, whatever else, and also getting to the right team, right? Whatever right means for the specific situation.
Got it. Thank you. Thanks.
And although 6 months might seem like a short amount of time, which it is relative to a study or a larger project, just keep in mind that this is funding activities like a conference or like team building retreats or something like that, which
Right. So a lot of
typically can be
people,
done.
yeah. So a lot of people will have like one big event that will be sometime during those 6 months, or they'll conduct like 3 different listening sessions during that. So it is, I know it's a short amount of time, as Ellison said, but it's not a lot of money. So there's not much you can crazily do with that. And so think really deeply about your timeline, recognizing that it's only 6 months. And also what you propose, right? Don't propose 10 million things because you will not be able to do it and it will not be feasible.
Correct. Thank you. Makes sense.
Yeah. 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 I think most people propose like 2 to 3 activities that they're doing, something like that, or 2 to 4. I don't know. Other questions?